It's Friday, December 2nd, 2022, and I've just received a package which I'm assuming is the Beach Boys Sail on Sailor box set. Let's take it to the basement, open it up, and see what we've got. All right, let's see what we've got here. Should be it. Hope I can not damage anything. Looks like it must be. Hopefully it's wrapped pretty well. And, ooh, there it is. Ta-da! The Sail on Sailor box set. Looks good. Got a hype sticker on it, which I'll look at later. I'm just going to open it up real quickly here and just flip through it. And then the plan is I will listen to this over the next couple of days and, come back with some sort of first impressions and be anxious to see what other people think. I'm sure other people are receiving this package today as well, and be interested to see what other people think. Nice cover. I like the sort of subdued background. It's very sort of Holland style, and I like the fact that there's photos, although they reused the 1972 photo, that one that made the inside of Carl and the Passions, or at least a variation of that photo for some of these pictures. So a lot of limited Beach Boy photos from this period, seemingly. Cool. Looks like nice package, lots of liner notes, lots of photos of tape boxes, which I guess is kind of cool. Well, that's it. This is the, what is it? How many CDs is this? 6 CD, is that right? 6 CD? 6 CD volume. The deluxe set, of course. I'm going to go through this, listen to it over the next couple of days, and then I'll come back with some initial thoughts. Stand by. For you, it'll only be a matter of seconds. Thanks. Welcome back. It's several days later, and I've had time to listen to the set all the way through at least once. Most of it I've listened to twice. Some parts I've listened to many times. There are things I wanted to immediately go back and enjoy and listen to again. My main impression is, wow, what a great set. I am very, very excited and pleased with the Sail on Sailor box. Of course, the original albums sound great, which was expected. The thing that I'm really excited about, though, and I think which most people are really interested in, is the previously unreleased material that's included here. Of course, the big difference, I think, between Sail on Sailor and last year's Feel Flows set is the number of live tracks. Feel Flows had 11 live tracks out of its 133 tracks, all recorded at various concerts between 1971 and 1993. For the Sail on Sailor set, more than a quarter of it is live. There are 6 tracks from various shows between 1973 and 1993. I'm guessing that somebody thought there should be a live version of Sail on Sailor in the set, which is why we get one from 1975. And it features a lead vocal from the late great Billy Hinchy, making it, I believe, unique to other released live versions. All this is from the same November 26, 1993 New York show that we already got some other live deep cuts from on the Made in California box and on the Feel Flows box. This version of All This Is That is the only officially released version apart from the one on the live 50th anniversary tour CD, making this the only released concert version with Carl on it. As for the other individual live tracks, Funky Pretty and We Got Love are from 1973, The Traders from 1975. All 3 of these are pretty similar to the versions that appeared on Beach Boys in Concert back in '73, though I do like the comment from Al, I think it's Al, introducing the unreleased We Got Love, Sing Along If You're Psychic. California Saga Big Sur, I believe, is unreleased live before in any form. It's from 1973. It's not the greatest live performance, particularly the vocal. It sounds like something that they're maybe trying out in concert that really didn't work out that well. Maybe that's why we haven't heard a live version of it before. Still, I'm very happy to have it, though I would have kind of maybe liked it as part of an expanded Beach Boys in Concert set sometime. As I mentioned when we talked about the Feel Flow set, I don't really get much use out of these orphaned live tracks unless there's something really unique about a live track, like it's got a special guest vocalist or a really radically different arrangement. I'd much rather hear live tracks in the context of a fuller concert. And that's just what we get here with the Beach Boys live at Carnegie Hall on Thanksgiving Day, November 24th, 1972, a landmark concert that is really the centerpiece of this set, making up the entirety of discs 3 and 4. Of course, some of these tracks we've heard before. The medley of Wonderful and Don't Worry Bill was released on the Endless Harmony soundtrack in 1998. Only With You was in Made in California in 2013. Student Demonstration Time was on last year's Feel Flows box set. And Long Promised Road was on both the Endless Harmony soundtrack and the Feel Flows box. I'm guessing those were used on those earlier packages because there hadn't been any live versions of those particular songs released before. Also, with the complete Carnegie Hall concert, we're getting the first live releases of You Need a Mess of Help to Stand Alone and the closer Jumpin' Jack Flash. Additionally, California Saga California has only been released live on the 50th Anniversary Tour CD, so it was recorded at a very different time under very different circumstances to the one that we have at Carnegie Hall. It's great to have a complete concert, especially a landmark concert like Carnegie Hall, and with Blondie and Ricky in the lineup, they were fast approaching or already at their apex as a live performing unit. It's also interesting to remember that the Holland album hadn't yet been released when these concerts took place, so some of the songs are previews of the Holland album, California Saga California, Leaving This Town, and Only With You. I appreciate that they've left in so many of the stage announcements, which really helps with the feeling that you are there at Thanksgiving 1972. Much of what's said is admonishing the audience not to shout out requests because they're recording the show for a possible live album. It would have been easy and even expected for these to be edited out. I always appreciate historical accuracy, so I like that they've left them in. During Mike's pitch for Transcendental Meditation, I enjoyed that he mentioned that Charles Lloyd was in the audience and that he had a new album out, Waves, with the song Transcendental Meditation, which, as Mike points out, features the group. I suppose part of the reason the Carnegie Hall concert was included here is because this period didn't have quite the treasure trove of unreleased studio material that was available from 69 to 71 for the Feel Flows set. This set in particular benefited from the unreleased material from Dennis's unfinished solo album. Still, Carnegie Hall is a great concert, well deserving of release. In fact, it's kind of a shame it took 50 years. It's really enjoyable. I usually always prefer studio material to live material. I'm not a real fan of live albums, but I do think that this is the rare kind of live recording that I will play on a semi-regular basis. It's just a really terrific show, and I'm so glad to have it. Getting to the unreleased or previously unreleased studio material, among the highlights, it's really delightful to hear Al's demo of The Road Not Taken, especially the way it builds from a recited poem with guitar accompaniment into unfamiliar musical territory, and finally to the very familiar That Makes All the Difference to Me. It's almost like hearing the Robert Frost poem morphing into All This Is That before your very ears. Later on, hearing Brian working on Sail on Sailor in 1971 is interesting both to hear how much was already in place and the different direction it might have gone in. In the Mount Vernon and Fairway session excerpt, it was fun to hear them imitating Mike's dad, Milt Love, telling Mike's brother Stanley to get upstairs. Some of the tracks, like Carry Me Home, Hard Time, and Out in the Country, have been around for years on Boots. Unsurprisingly, they sound much, much better here. Some of the unfamiliar outtakes are much more finished than I would have expected, in some cases seemingly just missing the vocals. From some of the titles, I kind of expected a lot more of these would be sort of improvised piano demos. And it's just a thought, but could the unfinished track Rooftop Harry have been meant for spring rather than for the Beach Boys? It has that kind of sound to it. If anybody knows more about that track, please pass it along. I always enjoy hearing the backing tracks and vocals mixed separately, and I particularly enjoy it on this set. I'm really surprised how much here has never been heard before, or at least how much I've never noticed before. The track and backing vocal for Steamboat in particular caught my ear, where the chugging sound at the beginning sounds like distant cannon fire, and there are vocals mixed in the background that I'd certainly never heard before. Also, there's cool hidden backing vocals on the track to Funky Pretty. There's a lot more great stuff there, but those two really jumped out at me. Overall, I'd say the set is a little bit better organized than Feel Flows. At least all the Orphan live tracks are grouped together nicely here. You do get a few weird things like the track and backing vocal for You Need a Mess of Help is on disc 1, the a cappella mix is on disc 5, an a cappella mix of Marcella's on disc 1, and the track and backing vocal is on disc 5. Apparently the 2 CD version of the set is identical to disc 1 and 2 on the 6 CD version, so I'm sure that's the reason. Still, it would be kind of nice to have the a cappella and backing track mixes grouped together. The 6 CD version ends with an a cappella mix of an alternate verse of All This Is That, which makes a nice tag for the album, but as much as I love that song, if there's a version with an alternate verse, I would have loved to have heard the whole thing. It's a very nice package with a good essay from Howie Edelson summarizing the period, and notes from Mark Lynette and Alan Boyd, and a paragraph from Al Jardine. There are some unique and unusual items pictured, but I wish they'd come up with some more seldom seen photos of the band. A lot of these have been reprinted many times over the years, though as I mentioned, there don't seem to be a lot of official photos of the Beach Boys from 1972, so they probably didn't have much to choose from. I noticed earlier that the photos of Mike, Dennis, and Alan on the front cover come from the 1972 photo of the band used on the Carl and the Passions album, or a slightly alternate version of that photo. I also now notice that the photos of Blondie and Ricky on the cover are reverse prints of the photos from the back of Holland. The faces among the clouds on the front cover also remind me a bit of the Friends album cover. I'm not sure if that's a deliberate homage or not. It's pretty well known that Brian was edited into the group photo on Carl and the Passions, reputedly to make it appear that he had more involvement in the album than he did. It's interesting, on the last page of the Sail on Sailor booklet, they use an alternate of that group photo and added an alternate photo of Brian in the same spot, preserving the illusion, which I thought was pretty funny. Getting back to unique items pictured in the set, there's a drawing on page 45 that I haven't been able to find a credit for. It's a drawing of the stage layout for the show at the Agora Theater, now the Newport Music Hall in Columbus, Ohio, on April 27, 1972. There's all this promotional stuff on it also, all carefully hand-lettered. Is this something Jack Riley put together? As I say, there doesn't seem to be any credit or explanation inside the booklet. I'm also curious what they had in mind with the line, "See the band who has worked with Paul McCartney." I know they'd met McCartney socially several times at this point, and I know he dropped by one of the sessions for Vegetables, and that it was variously reported that he'd produced it or he'd crunched carrots on the session or something. But I thought the band had always maintained that he was just there hanging out. Anyway, just curious about that. Not a big deal, certainly. Just thought it was interesting. If anybody has any additional information, love to hear it. Speaking of small things, I also just appreciate the simple fact that this set has the same dimensions as the Feel Flows box set. They definitely are companion pieces, and it's nice that they complement each other. I'm guessing that this is probably the last real hurrah for Beach Boy archival box sets. As we know, they went into a pretty fallow period for recording after 1972. I think it'll be pretty hard to build a viable box set around Child of Winter and the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Now, maybe they'll do what the Beatles did when they reached the end of the line with Let It Be. They went back and did Revolver. Maybe we'll get a 1965 box set concentrating on Today and Summer Days and Summer Nights. Though I think with the 50-year copyright protection releases, those years for the Beach Boys have been pretty well tapped out, so I'm not sure if that's viable either. There might be a box set to be made out of the Adult Child Sessions, 1977. I suspect a lot of that will be oldies, which I would just as soon have. I enjoy having them, but it certainly won't be quite as exciting as this music from the early 70s. We might still hope for an expanded Beach Boys in concert set, though some of the songs we'd have been looking for there have now already been released on the Carnegie Hall concert. Still, it would be nice to have live versions of Dennis's Barbara and River Song, and I'm sure there are some other deep cuts around, so maybe that's something we could hope for. Anyway, who knows what the future holds, but for right now, we have done very well in 2022 with the Sail on Sailor set. Next week, we'll get back to talking about 1972. Then we'll concentrate on Carl and the Passions for a couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to getting to that, particularly after having gotten revved up by listening to this set. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on it. These are just, some highlights. I'm sure there are things there that I totally overlooked on the couple of listens that I've given it so far. Please comment. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I look forward to that, and I look forward to next week when we will return to 1972 second quarter part 2. That's it. Thanks. Bye.